Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to thank and pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hello everyone, and welcome to Bouncing Back, the Personal Resilience Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I am your host, Joanna. Let's get started. Hi guys, and welcome to Bouncing Back. I am your host Joanna, and today we will be talking about how resilience and perseverance work together to help us during difficult times. I'm so excited to be joined by our very own podcast host, Gabriella Joustra, who is the host of the On the House and the Room by Room podcasts. Hi Gabs, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's awesome to have you back here because you took over Bouncing Back for a while, so it's really great to have you back again.
Yeah, I was going to say, does anyone recognize me?
Familiar face?
Yeah, it's weird to be on the other side of the table now.
Yes, I remember when I was there doing my first little intro here, so it's very cool. Let's jump straight into some get to know you questions. I thought we'd spice it up a bit because I'm sure you've already answered some of these before, but is there a current movie or book that you're watching or reading at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm always reading something because I can't get to sleep without it.
Yeah.
So I'm currently reading The World We Made, or The World We Make, which is a duology. So I'll talk about the first book because I don't think it makes sense to talk about the second book.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So the first book's called The City We Became. It's by N.K. Jemisin.
Okay.
I don't know if you've read any of her books.
No, I haven't.
Okay, highly recommend. So I've also read her other two of her other series. And this book, The City We Became, is about a city which basically comes to life and has these avatars, but they're being attacked by this really evil entity, and they're trying to find each other in the city and also fight off these people whilst also discovering who they are. And it's set in New York City. So,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's really cool because I don't know much about New York because I'm not from there.
Yeah.
It's mostly what I've seen from like TV and stuff.
Yeah.
But the sense that I get is it's really true to what New York's actually like because it's the good and the bad sides. And I don't know, it's really cool. And then we had that earthquake a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I was just reading this book then. And I totally thought that it was like Melbourne City coming alive, and then I was like the avatar, and I was going to be the new Melbourne, and I was like,
Stop. I love that. That's so good.
And then I was like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
What was that?
That actually sounds really interesting. I feel like I don't get to like read, or I don't even like pick up books that I might not normally read, so I would never have found out about that book. So that's really cool. Is it like a long read?
I would say not. I would say it's a medium read. It's about 5
so
centimeters thick.
Decent. Yeah, okay.
But not, it didn't take me a long time to read. Yeah, if you want, I can lend it to you. I've got the first book.
No, I would love to. That sounds really great. And is there like a movie you're watching at the moment or just books?
Movie. I did in fact go see the movie the other day, and I was trying to remember what movie it was. Oh yeah. Okay. I can't remember the name because I hadn't prepared this.
It's okay.
And I can't remember the director. So Cinema Nova has been doing a series. I think it's Wong Kai-sin, but don't quote me on that. His movies, they've been, because he's a Hong Kong director and he's done quite a few movies. I think, look, I've only watched one of them, and it's my partner who's been talking to me about this.
Yeah. So
it's a very hazy idea, but he's quite a famous Hong Kong director who's been making movies for quite a number of years. So the movie we watched, which name eludes me, but it was about this man and a woman who live next to each other. They're married, and then they discover their partners are having an affair. And so they decide to pretend to have an affair together.
That's so strange.
And I think the thing that really struck me was, I mean, number one, just beautiful cinematography.
Yeah.
The actors were wonderful. It's set in Hong Kong in like the 1970s.
Okay.
I grew up in Hong Kong, so it was really cool to see that.
Yeah.
Also, the Cheung Sam. So what the woman was wearing.
Yeah.
So it's the like traditional Chinese dresses.
Okay, yeah.
Exquisite.
Oh, I love when like a movie ties in like every element so well. It's really great to see.
Yeah. So I spent the whole time just being like, I want that cheongsam and I want that cheongsam and I want that cheongsam.
I just love how you have so many like interesting recommendations. I feel like whenever we've talked about this, like we've talked about books before as well, I feel like you just always have these really cool like recommendations, and I'm sitting here just watching Harry Potter on repeat, and there's just no diversity when it comes to books and movies for me. So
I mean, I've tried to, with books, I'm trying to diversify what I read because I feel like I read a lot of fantasy.
yeah.
So talking to my friends and saying, hey, what do you read that's not fantasy that is really good, and mixing that into what I read. But the thing I found really great with reading fantasy and sci-fi, NPR released a like 50 top best books in the last decade.
Oh, okay.
And I'm basically making my way through that. And that's been really great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because obviously they're like the best 50 books. So far, I think everyone that I've read, except maybe one or two, I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I think the one I didn't enjoy was because it's too political. I don't like political.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I did something similar, like I think a couple years ago, where I made a list of like all Oscar nominated or Oscar winning like movies. And I think there was like a list of 10 of them. And I just worked my way through them, and I was like, wow, like good movies actually like exist, and I can watch them like on repeat.
Yeah.
So that's really great. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Moving into our next one, hobbies. Is there anything you do? I know you love knitting. You can talk about that if you'd like.
I wanted to talk about something a little bit different than what I usually do. So
Okay.
I really love cooking. And as I said before, actually, my family are from Hong Kong, or half of them are. And so I've been trying to learn a bit more about like Hong Kong cooking and what's traditional. And recently we had Dragon Boat Festival.
Yeah.
And don't hate on my pronunciation. My pronunciation's bad, but you make this thing called zhongzi, which are like rice wrapped in bamboo leaves, and then you like boil them for like 9 hours.
Oh, wow.
We used a pressure cooker, so it was only 1 hour to cook them.
Okay, I was going to say, are you having like something running for like 9 hours?
When I saw it was going to take 9 hours to cook, I like called both my parents and I was like, hey, do you have a pressure cooker I can use?
Yeah. Fair enough.
Because I'm not hanging around for 9 hours for that.
I wouldn't either, honestly.
Yeah.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, it was totally worth it.
Yeah.
So it was really fun because it's quite complicated to make. And I like actually went to my mum's house and I was like, okay, we're going to make this together. So like you have to like get the bamboo leaves, you fold them in such a way that you can carry the rice, and you put like meat and peanuts and stuff in it, and then you wrap it up, and then you hope that they don't fall apart in the steamer.
Oh, so you just have to wait.
You just have to wait and see what happens. Yeah.
Oh.
And it was surprisingly good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm not that great of a cook, so I won't even say I'm going to attempt to make that, but it sounds good.
The other thing you do is you make like 80 of them at a go because they are so annoying to make.
Yeah.
So you spend the whole day making them, and then you just freeze them so you can have them over the year.
So like dumplings almost, like you spend a while making them.
Yeah, a bit like dumplings. And I mean, they're kind of like rice dumplings.
Okay, yeah.
Because they're like little balls of rice. Oh, and the thing you do with Dragon Boat Festival is you throw them into the water, I believe.
Oh, so you just throw your food into the water?
Well, there's like some story that goes with it. I think someone drowned and they want to give them food, so they put the rice in the... I can't remember.
That would be a cool story that I would have to look into.
Yeah. I did read it and then I promptly forgot what it was.
Fair enough. No, but I love when there's like traditions. It's really great. And do you have any pets at all?
I do.
Yeah.
I have a cat whose name's Felix.
Yep.
He's got one eye. He is currently not so well.
Oh.
But because of that, he's been getting medication. He's been getting special food.
Yeah.
And he is a menace at the moment. He climbed onto our counter. And we have the normal counter, and then we've got the counter which is hopefully inaccessible to Felix. It's not. Yeah. He grabbed the loaf of bread and he started eating it.
Oh, no. Can cats eat bread?
I think it's not great for them, but it's not bad for them.
Okay.
So we now have to keep the bread in the fridge so he can't get to it.
Oh.
And he's been waking us up earlier and earlier in the morning to have dinner or breakfast.
Oh.
So last night I gave him dinner at like 2:30 in the morning.
Oh my God.
Because he usually gets his breakfast at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's early.
Yeah, it used to be 6.
So you have to be up at 4 and then you just stay up
No. He wakes us up.
He wakes you up.
And then I go back to sleep again.
Okay, fair enough. Sounds like a baby. It's a big responsibility.
But he's a bit of a menace at the moment. I think he's just feeling a bit unwell and poorly and demanding. But if he continues this, I'm going to take him to the vet and see what we can do about it.
Yeah, no, I hope he gets better soon.
Yeah.
But he's so cute. I've seen photos. He's adorable. And our next one is travel. I know you've done a bit of travel in your life, but anything recent?
So most recently I went to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Actually lived there for about 5 years. I did high school there, so I had some friends back there.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to go back. So I was living in a place called Hamilton.
Yeah.
There's nothing interesting there. But it was really cool because when I lived there, I was in high school, I couldn't drive. And so this time I was able to borrow my friend's car and I could actually drive places.
Cool.
And so I actually got to see some of like New Zealand's natural beauty.
Yeah.
Which usually I'm stuck in Hamilton and it's just boring. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really beautiful.
That sounds awesome. New Zealand looks so amazing. Like, I know people who've gone and the landscape just looks unreal. Like, I've seen you literally can walk out of like your apartment and then you just see mountains and everything's just so green and nice.
Not where I was, but
okay.
but it was really cool because I think I drove for about an hour or so and then I went to this like mountain sanctuary and I was able to like walk up and just be on my own and I got to see some, what are they called? Kakas?
Oh, okay.
They were just flying around, like having a good time and it was really cool.
Are they like native birds?
Yeah, native birds. They're quite large, about, I don't know, like 40 centimeters tall, but like quite chunky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They were very cool. And I forget how good it is to travel on my own as well.
Yeah. Yeah, traveling on your own. I have traveled on my own, but I think I haven't properly like gotten to experience something on my own. So it's a great experience to have.
Yeah.
Amazing. And lastly, is there like a course you've completed recently or in the past that's, been inspirational to you or something you hold on to?
Yeah, so I just finished my graduate diploma of psychology advanced, which includes writing a thesis.
Oh, okay.
So it was very interesting. I really liked it going back to it after a couple years off. Because when I finished my last diploma, I was like, man, I'm sick of studying. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And coming back to it was really cool because I forgot how fun it is to learn. But I got to say, after a year and a half of juggling work and uni, I'm glad to have some time off.
No, that's fair enough. You deserve it.
Yeah.
So do you have much planned or?
I have a big board, a whiteboard filled with things I need to do.
Okay.
Some of them are like complete mental health courses, which will help me get jobs.
Yeah.
Some of them are like clean things in the house that haven't been cleaned in a long time.
Yeah.
And some of them's like go and have breakfast with my partner.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love a good to-do list. It's so satisfying getting to work through that.
Definitely.
Amazing. So I think we should just go right into those interview questions. And our first one is, why is resilience important in our life, in your opinion?
I think we need to start off by thinking about what resilience is. And having been the host on this podcast for maybe like 3 episodes, I have a little bit of an understanding, but not a huge understanding. I will also say that I am not an expert here. I am someone who is alive and has life experience.
Yes.
So yeah, you can look at what I say like in that lens, but not as an expert. So for me, what resilience is it's a skill that you can develop, and it's sort of the ability to weather things, in hard experiences in your life. So for example, really hard uni course, someone close to you dying, being able to come back from that. Obviously, all those things have an impact on you, but I guess not being too... I think with psychology, it's like there are things that happen in your life and that everything affects you, but it's when it starts to take over your life and when it becomes a problem, it's stopping you from doing things. So I guess that's what resilience is being able to continue on after something has happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what you've experienced so far.
No, that's really great. And I think that a lot of people, like leading into our next question as well, but a lot of people think that being resilient just means being immune to something or being really great at just having nothing affect you. So do you think that that's true?
No, I don't think so. Because things will happen to you. So I just finished a diploma of psychology. So the one that I was remembering was grief. And a certain amount of grief is normal. In fact, if you didn't grieve someone close to you dying, there's maybe a problem there.
Yeah.
Maybe not with you, but maybe your relationship with them.
Yeah.
But I think it was like up to 3 months of grief is normal, and that, grief is hard. Grief is something that happens to everyone. But it's when it sort of becomes over, like, I think it's 6 months to a year of grief, when it's affecting your life. You're not going out, you're not doing things.
Yeah.
That's when it's a problem and you need to go see a counselor to talk about why this is happening.
Yeah.
So I think that that's sort of what resilience is things will happen. Things are, you're not going to be immune to things. Things are going to impact you. But it's about moving on from there in a way that I guess is both respectful to what has happened, but also is something that you can build off of and recover from.
Yeah, for sure. And how do you think, for example, in those like 3 months of grieving, how do you balance grieving and feeling like it's okay to grieve, but also knowing that you have to be resilient about it?
That is something I don't think I really covered in my course, so I'm not going to be able to say anything about that.
That's okay.
I think that it's sort of understanding that grief is normal and it's okay to feel bad, and it's okay to do things that what you're going through is completely normal.
Yeah.
So like if you feel like not going out today and not doing anything, that's actually fine. You should do it.
Yeah.
But also, and not feeling guilty about some of the things that you're doing. And also not feeling guilty about actually going out and doing things. I think that there are problems when I think we feel bad when something bad has happened and you go and enjoy something. You're like, oh my gosh, that person won't ever get to do that again.
Yeah.
But I think understanding those feelings that are normal, that you can still have fun and do things. Or if you don't want to do those things, then it's also fine.
Yeah, for sure. Just being like true to yourself and like what you want, and not like pushing yourself to like go through something if you don't want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's really great. And how would you define perseverance?
So I think perseverance is part of resilience. I think it's an aspect of it.
Yeah.
I think that, to be resilient, you need to have a bit of perseverance in there. So perseverance to me is something bad happening, something hard. The one I was thinking about was I'm really bad at stats. So during my psychology diploma, my first stats course, I was like, I had to remember everything from 5 years ago, and I couldn't remember things, and I was like trying to like do my assignments, and I couldn't remember anything, and it was really stressful. I almost not gave up, but like decided to defer and try again later. So I think perseverance is, encountering those hard things and deciding to push forward with it, and understanding what you need to do to go forward, and not just giving up because it's easier to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I was having a think about this idea of like resilience and perseverance, and I was kind of wondering if one comes before the other, almost like steps. Like, does perseverance come first? Does resilience come first?
I think they kind of go hand in hand. I think that you need some resilience, I guess, to persevere, but you also need some perseverance to be resilient.
Yeah.
It's like with a lot of things. It's not like chicken or egg situation.
Yeah.
Or it is a chicken or egg situation because you need one to have the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes you can have one without the other, or like one might be happening and then you're aware that that's happening, but the other one just kind of comes in and you don't actually know you're being resilient while you're persevering. So it could be a situation like that.
I think that maybe they both help each other.
Yeah.
But I think you can you probably can persevere in a way that isn't resilient.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. Yeah.
So I think that there are things that feed into each other that can help or hinder, I guess. Or that they can be exclusive without each other, but maybe they're not quite as effective.
Yeah, and how would you say then perseverance affects personal resilience?
I think that perseverance is not important, but I think it is in some instances an important part of resilience, because if you give up on everything, if you never try the hard thing, then you're not going to be able to build up that resilience, and you're never going to be able to be resilient. You're not going to come back because there's nothing to come back from.
Yeah.
You'll just kind of, I guess, float around and not really do anything in your life.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with that. I feel like sometimes you need those bad or hard things to happen to actually build strength from that. Because if all things in life are good and successful, then like, what are we sort of living for if there's nothing we can improve upon, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really great. And on that topic of like giving up, what do you think makes people want to persevere even in the hardest of times when avoidance or giving up could just be easier?
I think probably hope, if that's a bit corny. But
No, I love it. I love it. Yeah.
like if we don't have anything, or maybe even like, I don't know, spite.
Yep, definitely.
I guess it's that overarching desire for something else, which could be hope, it could be spite.
Either one.
Either one. It's just like I think you need to have a goal. You need to have something that you're looking forward to persevere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, for example, if you are trying to let go of something, you're hoping that there is something you're moving towards that is better. So you're not just totally giving up on whatever it is you're working on. So yeah, that makes sense, I think. And do you think how might you like distinguish when it's appropriate to persevere during difficult times, or if you should give up or when you should give up?
I think that's a really good point, because I think that there are some points when it is actually good to give up on something. I think that we put a lot of emphasis on never give up, you know, always persevere. But I think that sometimes it's not a good thing. You know, there are some things that just aren't going to work. And I think that it actually makes us happier in a sense to not always give up. And I think it's about, I guess, figuring out what is really important for you and what isn't important for you.
Yeah.
So, for example, we're gonna talk. The examples are my university studies and a knitting project that was really frustrating me.
Yeah.
So the university project, it's really important that I have perseverance. I put in that effort because that's going to be something that's really important for me in the future. You know, it's something that I can build my career on, something I'm very passionate about. Giving up on a knitting project that really is not making me happy, that's not a failure, because the whole point of that is to be happy and to do something fun. And so giving up on that is actually fine.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you should just give up on all hobbies, because
you can't do it or it's too hard. Yeah.
Yeah, because like that's also not the way to learn. Like I think with knitting as well, I think there have been a few times where I've been really frustrated and I don't know how to proceed. So instead of giving up, I find some resources, I talk to people, and I learn how to do something. And that's also really important. But I think, I guess weighing up whether or not you can learn something, whether something's so frustrating that you just cannot proceed. I think it's also fine to put something down and say, I'll come back to that later when I'm not angry.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think what you mentioned about happiness is a really good like indicator of whether or not you should give up. Because I know there's this whole thing about fight for what you want and all of that. But then if fighting for it isn't making you happy, or pursuing, for example, a knitting project isn't making you happy, then what's the point of doing it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do something that, and it's also going to kill your enjoyment of something. It's like when, I think we talked about this last time, which was, or maybe it was someone else, I can't remember.
That's okay.
Sorry. Reading for enjoyment and not just reading for like, because you think you should read and because you think you should improve yourself.
Yeah.
Some people I find, they tackle these really long, hard books and they're like, I don't really read. I've been reading this book for a year, but I just can't get into it. And I'm like, just read something fun, honestly.
Yeah.
And because reading this hard book that you don't enjoy has ruined reading for you. Just read something fun that you enjoy. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think the same with hobbies is, do something that makes you fun, makes you happy. Otherwise, you're going to give up altogether, and that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you're trying to read that book and you're trying to force yourself to read it because you think it's what you should be doing and you should be reading this hard book, you're just really like deconstructing your love for reading if that's something you like to do. And over time, you'll get to a point where like you're like, wow, I hate reading now. Why do I hate reading when I used to love it a year ago? Yeah, so that's a really great point. Yeah, for sure. And Can quitting be mistaken for giving up? It was something that I was trying to like mull over in my head when I was thinking about this topic.
I think that probably quitting is synonymous for giving up. I don't know if there's a difference in the wording.
Yeah.
I just think whether or not quitting is necessarily always negative.
Yeah. I was thinking of like the connotations of the word. Like quitting seems almost like just putting it aside. You don't want to do it anymore. And giving up is more like I've tried, but like I just can't do it anymore, you know?
I guess. I sort of see quitting as like a job. Like you quit a job and I don't know, it always seems like you quit in anger.
Yeah. Quitting's very like aggressive.
Yeah. Whereas I think giving up is a bit more like you've given up hope.
Yeah.
You know, you like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I'm giving up type thing.
Yeah, I think quitting is more associated with something physical maybe, and giving up is more of like an emotional state perhaps.
Yeah.
No, I was just really curious about that. So I was like, let's unpack that a little bit more because I was like, I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
And my next question is, if perseverance fails, do you think resilience alone can help someone in a difficult time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you do need to sometimes you do need to like let go of things. You know, if you're doing if you're at uni, you're doing a course that you were pushed into, you really don't like, it's okay to give up sometimes and think about what you want to do next. That's giving up, but it's also, you need to come back from that, and that's where resilience will help you.
Yeah.
Because, that's, I guess perseverance is like the preceding thing, and then resilience kind of helps you to come back from that.
Yeah, I kind of see it in that way as well. Like when we were talking about what comes first sort of thing, I guess one does sometimes come before the other. And I know you mentioned if, for example, you got pushed into doing that course, what if like it was your choice to do it and then you're like, I have to see this out because it was my choice to be here. I've committed to this. I can't give up now.
I kind of think it depends on how long you've got to go and why you're doing the course.
Yeah.
For example, if you got like 6 months to go, kind of just do it if you can.
Yeah.
Defer and come back to it in 6 months. I think it depends on what the cost is. You've got to kind of balance that for yourself. But it is if it is something that you've chosen and it's not working for you, then maybe it's not worth pursuing it. Maybe you can transfer to something else that's more useful. I don't think there is a point in persevering with something that you're not going to use later.
Yeah, for sure. And what if it's more like a knitting project, you know, and there is no time constraint because it's your own personal hobby and you're like, okay, I don't really have to finish this by a certain time, but not really enjoying it anymore. Like maybe I'll just let go of it.
In that case, I think you can just put it aside for a few years maybe. I did that with a project recently where I've unearthed this jumper that I started knitting and I gave up because I couldn't figure out how to do the shoulders.
Yeah.
And I look at it, man, it's so ugly.
You should wear it on the show one day.
I have already unraveled it.
Oh, okay.
So like, I think in some ways, like if you're having trouble with something, sometimes it's because there's a reason.
There should be always be a reason, yeah.
And that particular knitting project, I chose a really ugly yarn. I chose a free pattern which wasn't written particularly well.
Yeah.
And it also just doesn't look very good. So I think I kind of gave up because part of me was going, well, this isn't really going to work anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not going to enjoy wearing it. And I've come back to it after several years of being like, oh, I never finished that project. Oh, I feel kind of bad about never finishing the project.
Yeah.
And I look at it and I'm like, I'm never going to wear it. Making this jumper will serve no one because it's so ugly. I will feel embarrassed wearing it.
Fair enough, honestly. And like for literally anyone listening, this could be like a metaphor for genuinely anything.
Yeah.
Like we're just using knitting, but I think it could be applied to so many different things. So do you think that determination and passion can help people overcome obstacles, or do people get to a point where it's like too much and they just have to give up despite their passion?
Look, I think there is always two ways to everything. To a certain point, you do need determination and passion, and they can help you to overcome obstacles. And I think that it's important to try. So, for example, as I said before, I had that one unit where I was just I had no idea what was happening. I had like a breakdown like in the first week and I was like, I can't do this. I don't know how I can do this.
Yeah.
And I think over the weekend, I had to think about what I wanted to do, what was going to work for me, whether I wanted to defer and come back to it, whether it was worth doing everything at all. And I think that I came back and I was like, I am determined to do this. I am going to do this. I had to change my thinking a little bit to do that, because I was like, instead of trying to aim for HDs, you know what? I'm just going to pass this one.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to learn everything. I have a bit of a completionist mentality. You know, I want to learn everything. I'm paying for this course.
Yeah.
I want to learn everything. And I was like, you know what? This one, I'm just going to learn what I need for each assignment, and I'm going to pass, and it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And that was also because I really want to finish this course, and I don't want to have to wait, another 3 months to finish the course. So yeah, and that's what I did, was I just changed my thinking a little bit and came back to it. And I finished it. I don't have to do it again.
No, that's really great. I think setting standards for yourself and like achieving that is also like resilience and perseverance in a way, even if you're not achieving it to the standard that you thought, but you are achieving it to your goals, then that's really great. So how do you think, for example, going off of what you said about overcoming obstacles, how does that make someone stronger or more resilient?
Yeah. So as you said before, give me a sec. So as you said before, like if nothing happens in your life and everything's easy, then you don't really have, I guess, a place to start off with being resilient. I guess, I don't know if you've seen the whole gifted kid thing online.
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. So it's like gifted kids, you know, in school, they're quite smart. They don't really have to try with anything, and they get to uni and everything's really harder. They don't know how to study because they've never had to study before. They were just kind of good at everything.
Yeah.
And so they haven't had the chance to build up that study ability, to build up the feeling of failure and coming back from failure. Whereas, okay, I have dyslexia. School was it wasn't necessarily hard for me, but it also wasn't easy for me.
Yeah.
Like, I had to go home from maths and basically relearn everything every night.
Oh.
And so, and I had to work really hard to understand what was happening.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky because my mum was able to help me with everything, and I had a really great support system. But my other friend who sat next to me texted the entire class. She didn't pay attention to anything at all. And she got better marks than me, and it used to annoy me because I worked so hard. I did every question on the homework. I listened to everything in class. I don't know how she's doing now. I'm not saying that she's doing badly or anything. But that just sort of puts me in mind to all those comments I see about gifted kids. I don't have that because I've always had to try hard.
Yeah.
And in some ways it's good because I just know how to approach things, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like perseverance as well. Like you can see other people around you not having to try as hard as you and still doing better than you. But the fact that you're persevering and you're pushing through that is also resilience.
Yep.
And so I think we're starting to see how those two things can tie together, and they're just pretty synonymous, I guess, with each other when it comes to different situations in our life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, amazing. And now I think we'll move on into our practice and habits experiment debrief section. So here I'm just going to ask you a few more like personal questions, as you know. And so our first one is there a practice that you have to help you deal with perseverance, or a strategy that you use?
I don't know. I was trying to think of this earlier, but because I think it's so ingrained in how I think, in some ways it's kind of hard to say that this is one practice that I do. I think in some ways it's about understanding what you can and can't do. And so as I said before, I have dyslexia, so there are some things that are harder for me. And I'm like, okay, it's harder for me to do this. That's fine. I'm not going to beat myself up about that because I can't change that. But I can work harder, so it's not as big a deal, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like coming to work on time. You try your best to get to work on time. Sometimes you make a mistake and you catch the wrong train.
Yeah.
And you come to work and you're like, okay, well, I've made a mistake. I have to catch the earlier train next time. But sometimes something's going to happen, like the train breaks down while you're on it and you're going to be late to work. And then accepting that, that was a freak accident and you could never have planned for that. And you can't beat yourself up for being late to work in that case.
Yeah.
So I think, I guess I'm not sure how you develop that, but I guess practice that mentality of figuring out what things you can and can't control so that you know where to apply the perseverance.
Okay, yeah. So for example, like something bad happens to me, but I wasn't really in charge of that bad thing happening to me. So seeing that and knowing that I can persevere through that because it's not something that I've done to myself.
Yeah.
But then if it's something that you know you've done to yourself, then I think it's sometimes a bit harder to persevere through that and like find resilience in those moments.
And I think also understanding what you've done wrong, but not getting too hung up on it, because I think people get stuck in that rut of like, oh, it was my fault. I should have done better. I'm such a bad human being. That kind of thinking is really bad for us.
Yeah.
I think saying, okay, I did wrong here. This is what I need to do to be better for next time, and just trying to achieve that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us can get stuck in that rut of like, oh, I did this wrong. I wish I could go back and I wish I could change it because then that situation would be better and I wouldn't have to persevere through this hard moment now because I would have avoided it.
Yeah, but that's also avoidance, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And then maybe next time you'll be like, instead of, because so you're late to work and you're like, it was my fault. I'm a bad human being because I was late to work. I should just quit my job because they don't deserve me, because they shouldn't put up with that.
Yeah.
And that's avoiding everything. But persevering is saying, okay, tomorrow I'm going to get up a bit earlier and I'm going to go to work and it's going to be fine. And that's perseverance. Yeah.
So every day is a new chance to do something better. A bit cringy, but we'll roll with it. What are like the great things about this practice that you do?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it makes you more resilient and better at persevering. I guess that's the main thing.
Yeah.
I think that it's, you can do it yourself. I mean, I think it's hard to do everything. It's hard to, change how you think. That's why we have psychologists.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's too hard for you to change how you think. But it is something you can do in your own time. It isn't something that you need to, I guess, you don't have to go and pay money for it if you don't need to go through a psychologist. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important. Like some things you can just do on your own, and perseverance sometimes seems like the most impossible thing, but having a healthy mindset and looking back to past experiences of being persevering.
Yeah.
There we go. We got there. And to our next question, do you think that there are challenges to the practice you do?
Yeah, I don't think it's easy to change your mindset. If it was easy, we would all be much healthier human beings because we would just say, okay, well, I'm going to, instead of sitting in front of the TV and eating a bag of chips, I'm going to go for a run every day. Yeah. I think if it was easy to change our mindset, we'd all be healthier. And go for runs every day. Yeah, exactly. And we wouldn't have problems because we would be able to predict them before they happen. So that's why we've got perseverance and resilience. So that's really great. And do you find yourself doing this subconsciously, or are you more conscious of when you're actually being, persevering through things? I think it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
I think sometimes... particularly like when I'm driving and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. That was a bit of a silly thing I just did. Yeah. Okay, I got to not do that in the future. But also if I dwell on that as I'm driving, I'm going to be a danger on the road. Yeah. Yeah. So it's something I definitely do, like consciously sometimes, but I think it's also something that becomes then unconscious.
Yeah, and I think that's important because sometimes big things happen in our life, like mistakes or, I don't know, a difficult situation, and you have to actually take time to be like, okay, how do I push through this? But then there are some things we've like ingrained into our mind to already do and push through. For example, oh, I don't want to go to the gym, but I'm going to go to the gym. Like we're not super conscious, we're being like, I'm really stuck on if perseverant is a word. Perseverant? Persevering through it. So I think there are both instances. Some are bigger, some are smaller.
And I think that, you have to start off with everything, like every habit, you have to start off doing it really consciously.
Yeah.
Like when you start a habit where you're like, okay, I'm going to go for a run every day. You've got to think about it. You've got to set it in your diary. Every day I'm going to go for a run, and you have to think about it. But once you've started doing that for a few months, you're going to be like, okay, it's time for me to go to my run. You don't need to have the, calendar reminder to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So you start off with doing it really subconsciously and finding it hard, and then it becomes easier.
Yeah, and I think I remember learning this from another guest, or I think I might have read it online, but I think it's like it takes 30 days to reinforce a habit into your routine, like actually having to, don't quote me on this, but like properly force yourself to do it before it becomes just natural.
I've definitely heard that before as well.
Yeah, so I think we can apply that to here as well. And I don't think you could say you have a certain time you set up to do these things, right? It just happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that setting up time in your life schedule, to, I guess, have a bigger think about your life is a good thing to do, though. Obviously, there are going to be things where you're applying it directly because something has just happened. But I think also, going for a walk where you have time to think about things, where you're not listening to podcasts or talking to someone, where you can think about what you want in your life and what you want to do and reflect back on things is really important. And I learned that in my psychology diploma about mindfulness.
I love that. That's really good.
Yeah.
I'm glad we can apply it here.
Yeah.
And in those moments where you've decided to take time to actually reflect on things and you're thinking about some bad things that have happened or things you've failed at, do you think it's important to also use resilience in those times to make sure you're not putting yourself in a bad position just because you're thinking of these negative things and reflecting on them?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've all experienced, trying to go to sleep at night and remembering every bad thing that's ever happened to you. So there's a time and a place for these things and a way to do it. Ruminating, I don't believe is particularly good for you. Thinking about all the bad things you did and like, oh, I should have just done better. I should have just done better. That's not good.
Yeah.
It's, I guess, setting up a time when you feel calm, when you're ready to actually do it. Not getting any sleep when you're trying to go to sleep is not a good time to do it.
Yeah.
Doing it in the middle of the day when you feel awake enough to deal with these emotions and is a good time to do that type of thing, do that type of thinking.
Yeah, I think I've always found that upon like waking up is not the best time to do it. You need to set yourself up for your day and then do it sometime throughout your day when you're supposed to be being productive and doing things, and definitely don't do it at night when you're supposed to be winding down and going to sleep sort of thing.
Because I think it can be it can be emotional, some of these things, and sleep is really important for us. And yeah, we don't want to disturb that because it's just going to make you worse tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. So I think there's a time and a place even for being resilient and, trying to persevere through things.
Yeah.
Which is great. So I think we're ready to get into our open mic section.
Okay.
So was there anything you would like to talk about with us? Genuinely could be anything.
Okay, yeah. So I got into knitting mostly because when I was working and studying, I didn't have time to get the sewing machine out. That's my other hobby. But knitting's cool because you can like pick it up and do it in 10 minutes and then put it down again.
Yeah.
So I brought it here today so I can knit on the train because that's the person that I am.
Oh, I love that. I love having things to do on the train. I feel like it's so fun instead of just sitting there, like people watching sometimes. And I think we've got a little something.
Okay.
Show and tell.
Our little helper has brought... Studio Goblin has brought my knitting basket so I can show off what I'm doing at the moment.
Go for it. We'd love to see.
First of all, this is the jumper that I knitted that I'm currently wearing. It's all that I'm wearing at the moment because it's really, really warm. Ta-da.
Stunning. I don't even know how you made that. That just looks like I would buy that from a store.
I know. I think it's crazy that I turned like a ball of yarn into something that is wearable. I think it's crazy still.
It's magical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm so excited because it is like the warmest jumper I have. And I'm like, I need to make 10 more of these.
Oh, I love it. How long did it take you to make that one?
3 to 4 months.
Oh my God. I would have been like, maybe like a week or two.
Oh gosh, no.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was knitting it in meetings too.
Oh, that's a really great way to pass time.
Yeah. And then this is my current project. And get it right way around.
I feel like I'm in primary school right now, just like sitting and waiting for someone to bring their things out. It's so great.
Okay. Ta-da!
Oh, that's so cute.
This is my first proper color work. Talking about perseverance, I had to learn how to do this on the go, and I almost gave up because it was all weird, but I've decided it's fine.
It looks amazing. It looks so professional. I don't think there is a single fault in that other than the fact it's not done yet.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing at the moment. It's patterned by Dear Ingenue. It's the Sweater of Swords, if anyone wants to do it, because I saw this on the Reddit knitting page and I was like, I have to make that immediately.
I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd like it because there's swords and there are moons and I just think it's cute.
I just realized that's what it is. Oh, so cute. I love it.
And I love that type of stuff. So yeah, I've been knitting this since March.
Okay. And how long do you think you've got left?
I've got the rest of the body to go. So I've got like that much left. But it's pretty easy knitting. It's not like complicated. So maybe another month. I hope to get it done by winter.
Yeah, the end of winter.
By the end of winter. Some point during winter.
So that's probably for next winter.
I'll probably just wear it because...
Fair enough. You've made it. Own it.
I'm
even
proud
during
of it.
summer.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. Well, I think that also brings us to the end of today's episode. So it was amazing to have you here again and chatting to you. And I hope we've left people with a little something they can think about with resilience and perseverance. And I hope they can apply it in their life as well. So for those of us who want to find out more about you, where can we go?
Yeah, great. So I have 2 podcasts, so you can find me there. We talk about home organization on the Room by Room podcast, and we talk about home management on the House podcast. And you're probably thinking they sound like 2 very similar things. So I'll give a brief explanation about both of them. So on the House, household management is about the things you do in your house and how to keep it running. So things like cooking, finances, gardens. Whereas home organization, Room by Room podcast, is more about how the house can be built and organized to facilitate your life. So, how should you organize your kitchen to make it easier to cook?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And you can find them on, we've got YouTube, we've got every podcast platform you could possibly think of. Everywhere. And you should be able to find that in the show notes. Same as where you can find this podcast.
Yeah, amazing. And very different to what I talk about on my shows. So I hope everyone gets on there and learns a bit more about how to organize their homes and their rooms. So thank you so much for being here. And like Gabriella said, we've got all of her details in the description below. So to everyone listening, please don't forget to like and subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and we'll see you next time. You've been listening to Bouncing Back, the Personal Resilience Science Insights podcast produced by the Life Management Science Labs. Listen to episodes from LMSL's 10 life management perspectives on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or other podcasting apps on your smartphone. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps other people find it and us grow to bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website, pr.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Joanna. Thanks for tuning in.